The Life Coaching Toolbox Podcast is brought to you by Joeel and Natalie Rivera of Transformation Academy. In this episode, Joeel talks about communication strategies that avoid conflict and improve relationships. This episode is one of 13 episodes in a series that walks you through the complete Enlightened Relationships virtual workshop.
Now we're going to go over communication strategies that work. And these are pretty basic, and some of the things that we're going to talk about, you're like, well, that seems pretty simple. But the challenge is that those simple things that can improve our relationships are the things that we sometimes neglect to do. And if we took the time to do them, then it can drastically improve our relationship. So the good part is that it's simple. And the good part is that we can implement it right away. So when we look at communication, one of the first keys to success in any relationship, whether it's your siblings, parents, significant other, even your own boss or coworker or employee, communication is a vital part. In fact, you see a lot of people training out there teaching people basic communication skills because we need to connect to others. We need to connect to others in a functional way that both individuals are going to feel heard. They're going to feel like they are valued. They're going to feel like their partner or that other person looks at them equally and understands them at a different level, which is very important then when we look at communication that we implement it in a way to think of the relationship as a team. Because at the end of the day, that is what you are, a team. And if you can look at the relationship as a team, then when you communicate, you're going to do it in a way that's going to help the relationship grow, relationship thrive. And the challenge with communications a lot of times is that we have to break those negative patterns in our communication style and the terminology that we use and the way that we express ourselves to make it fully functional. So some of the things that I'm going to mention are pretty simple in a lot of ways, but the more we train ourselves to do it, the more natural it will become for us to be able to express ourselves in a way that's going to be constructive, not destructive. So we already mentioned never use the words always and never. And yes, you heard me say never, because those things are one of the things that brings up the defense system right away. When a person already hears the word, you always do this or you never do that, even if they do it at any point, they're going to stop doing it. Or they're going to do it even more in a negative way. Because, for example, if somebody tells you, well, you never say, I love you, like I mentioned before, then is that going to motivate the person to say, I love you more? Probably not. It's probably going to motivate them to say, I love you less. Because in their mind, they say, I do say it. You might say you only say it once a month or once a week or whatever it is, but in their mind, they say it. But what they feel is that they're not being acknowledged for the times that they say it. Understand what I'm coming with, what I'm trying to explain? So when you say always and never, you're invalidating a person's action. When you say you always behave this way, or you always get loud, then the person in their mind says, well, what about those other times that I did certain things that you liked or communicated in a certain way? So you have to be very specific when you talk to individuals, because we are creatures of patterns, and sometimes we don't see our own patterns and we don't believe our own patterns. But when you point out specific times, specific places, and how it made you feel, it makes the person reflect on those actions and makes them concrete. So now you're not just pointing something out of a cloud saying you do this or you do that. You're giving a specific example of things that you like and things that you don't like, things that affect you in a positive way and things that affect you in a negative way. So Natalie talked a little bit more about the positive sandwich as she goes along, but I'm going to go over the when, what, and how. So when you communicate with your partner, you should always include when something happened, what it was, and how it made you feel. So for example, yesterday, when you called me to tell me you love me, what they did, how it made you feel, it made me feel special. And realistically, if you want to change your relationship, again, they don't mind read and you're not a mind reader either. So when I just said that to them yesterday when you called to tell me I love you, It made me feel special. What do you think is going to go on in their mind? So that's what it takes to make this person feel special. Positive reinforcement works on adults and children. The more negative you reinforce something, meaning the more friction you bring in communication, the less you're going to get what you want out of that communication, the less you're going to get someone who's going to participate in helping you have the experience that you want out of life and helping that relationship be the things that you want it to be. So when you use this, use it more on the positives. That way when they hear the statement like 2 weeks ago, they don't automatically go negative. They don't say, well, here comes a negative comment I just heard when I did something. Make sure that you balance it out. And the way that I tend to think about it is, for example, you're playing a game where you have to get the more red bars versus green bars or something like that. So you got to accumulate a certain amount of these positives before you can touch on these negatives. And the reason you want to do that is because you want to find balance. Because human beings grow up listening to 30 negatives to each positive. Now that's crazy. Because that means that you, your partner, for the most part, or people that you associate with, that they heard 30 negative things. Don't do this, don't do that, you're doing this wrong, whatever it is. 30 negatives to each positive thing that they received. So it's no wonder why people are defensive, why they seek that positiveness. So we have to build those people around us. We have to build our relationship with positives, and this is how we do it, because we're teaching them what makes us happy. At our core, we want to make our partners happy, but we have to understand how. So for example, if I walk in and I tell my significant other, yesterday when you cooked wings, which I love, it made me really feel like you were in tune with what I was feeling. So what is that person going to do? When they want to make me feel good, they're going to know, hey, I should cook him wings tonight. That makes them feel good. When they know I've had a rough day, it makes them, again, reminds them of what I like and what I don't like. So we're teaching each other. But this is also something that you can use when you're trying to express something negative. Because we want to practice it when it's positive, because it's very easy to do. When it's negative, we tend to kind of lose our patterns or lose our chain of thought or not be able to express ourselves fully because we have that adrenaline rush. We have the negative patterns taking over, the beast coming out. So we want to be able to practice this in a positive note, so when it's negative, we can do the same thing. For example, if they do something that really hurt you, you can say, this morning, when you threw all your stuff around the house, and knowing that I've had a long day and that I had a lot to clean, it really made me feel like you weren't being considerate, or whatever it may be. If that's how it made you feel, you got to be honest. But again, you can express specific things, because worst thing you could do in any relationship, any communication, is generalize. But again, if you're thinking as a team, then you're thinking that I got to give more positives than negatives. And the more positives you give, the more you're going to be open to expressing negative, and the more you're developing trust. Because you develop trust by focusing on positives in communication. And Natalie will give you some strategies that are also going to help you and go over how to make a positive sandwich with all this information. So again, I look forward to you using this, the when, what, and how, taking away words like always and never, focusing on the positives. Seems pretty simple, pretty basic, but it creates miracles if you actually implement it.
Visit transformationacademy.com/toolbox to download free life coaching worksheets that go with the activities discussed in this podcast, plus other resources for creating a thriving life coaching business.